and death. So when we find oppression, when we see oppression, we are obligated to fight against oppression until oppression is no more. It doesn't matter who is oppressing who, but if there is oppression, if there's oppression of men or women, then we are to fight against that oppression. If it is racial oppression, then we are to fight against that oppression. If it is class oppression, then we are to fight against that oppression. For oppression is worse than death. For the attitude is for anything that is hindering the human development, then we are to fight against that hindrance. So, in that philosophy, we find that there is no schisms. I don't have to be concerned which organization I'm going to work with as long as that organization is working for right. As long as that organization is working to end oppression. As long as that organization is working to stop hindrance of human development. Then I can be Muslim, I can fulfill my duty to Allah, and I can feel comfortable with my fellow human beings. So we want to leave you with this on your mind. No matter what they say to you about the Arabs, about them being a different people from you, remember recorded history have put you in their bloodline. Recorded history have tied them genealogically to Africa. And Arabia is not some desert island. It is part of your homeland. And the human development cries out to end oppression. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Ali. Let's give him another strong hand. Building permanent political organizations, the African United Front and alliances. You actually see this principle in action here this evening. You have 4 organizations here who have coalesced to put on African Liberation Day. 4 organizations with 4 separate ideologies, different programs, but a common goal. And that goal is the total liberation of African people wherever they are in the world. The New African Peoples Organization is an organization of New African men, women, and children who are organized to fight against oppression and to fight for the complete freedom of African people here in America. We were founded on May 19th, 1984, and we consider our ideological father, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, popularly known as Malcolm X. When I say that we are a revolutionary New African organization, I'll explain why we put the new in front of African. That is recognizing Africa as our homeland, Africa as the mother of civilization, also recognizing the circumstances of over 400 years of oppression here in North America. The combination of a number of African nations in the formation of one nation, which we call the New African Nation. Which means we're no longer Igbo, Zulu, Akani, but we are a combination of a number of different African nations who have been tied together by a common psychology. We think alike due to the circumstances of our oppression, a common spirituality. We can identify, we are moved by the same things. A common culture, a culture that has resisted oppression and celebrated our Africanity in its manifestation. A common economic circumstance. Most of us have come through the process of chattel slavery and are now economically oppressed by a society which has always dominated the economics of our lives. We speak a common language. You know, some people say we don't speak the English language, but we can speak the English language if we really wanted to, and most of us here are a testament to that. But we have our own language, a language that is a mixture of our African heritage as well as the English language that was forced upon us when we were enslaved. Some call it Ebonics. Others say we just don't know proper grammar. But we all be Africans, is that correct? The New African Peoples Organization recognizes the title of that African nation here in North America as the Republic of New Africa. The homeland of our black nation, as we see it, is the southeastern black belt of the United States. The states of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, and Louisiana are all in the black belt and the Republic of New Africa. We feel that we are a colonized nation, meaning that we do not have the right to control our lives that we are entitled to as human beings, and our call is for self-determination, that we as New Africans should determine how we wish to live our lives. There are those of us who may want to be Americans, and we feel that they should be allowed to be Americans with all of the rights that come with full American citizenship, not a second-rate citizenship that has been designated to us as Africans in America. We feel that those of us who wish to return to the homeland should indeed return to the homeland and help build and strengthen the continent of Africa, as it is the motherland for all of us. And a strong Africa will mean that Africans all over the world will be able to better resist oppression. But we also recognize that there are those among us who may not wish to return to the motherland and who do not wish to be considered a part of the American empire. And we feel that those Africans, due to their struggles on the land, here in the Black Belt, the battles that we have fought to be self-determining on this land, the sacrifices that we have made to survive here in America, are entitled to some land. All right? Now, there are those who say that we don't have a claim on the land. But we beg to differ. We differ because Africans and the Native Americans have always worked in concert to resist the oppression of the European who stole this land. We differ because we, as an African people, left the plantations and were taken in by the Native Americans. We became part of their nation. We even have risen as high as chief of some Native American nations. And there is hardly an African family that developed here in the Black Belt that could not trace kinship somewhere to a Native American. And we feel that to desert our brothers brothers and sisters who are Native Americans and leave them to battle that devil European alone after their numbers have been decimated to that of less than 1 million would be to desert brothers and sisters. So we of the new African Peoples Organization choose to stay here and fight. Not belittling the struggle to free Africa. We wholeheartedly support that struggle. But if we are giving that devil hell right here in America, he'll have less time to continue to oppress our brothers and sisters in Africa. So we have a struggle here. And that struggle is for land. Because as we know, no people can be self-determining unless they control some land. Malcolm said all revolution is for land. Malcolm also said that revolution and struggle is bloody. And we have to recognize that. We don't advocate the taking of blood as something pleasurable, as something we should all aspire to do. But what we do say, that we advocate our self-defense, and as Malcolm said, anyone who lays a hand on us in our quest for self-determination, we will send them to the cemetery. And it's as simple as that. We don't try to make it pretty. Revolution is not pretty. Power concedes nothing without struggle. And we're dealing with a beast who is not only powerful but amoral. And we have to recognize in our quest to defeat this monster that we must be organized. Not just as the New African Peoples Organization, because we admit that we don't have the answer for everyone. Not just as the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, not just as the Nation of Islam, not just as the Jackson Mosque did, not just as the Jackson Human Rights Coalition or the NAACP. We must have a united front of Africans who are dedicated and committed to the struggle of freedom for all African people worldwide. You know, we find a lot of reasons not to like each other and not to get along with each other. And I came into the struggle at a time where there was a lot of that going on. I mean, NAPO wouldn't sit at the table with the nation, and the nation wouldn't sit with NAPO, and the party wouldn't sit with NAPO, and it was just back and forth. And we kind of thrived on all of that confusion that was going on and how we told them and we did that. And we weren't accomplishing anything. You know, our enemy was running around feeding the flames. Yeah, you know, even injecting lies into all of it. And in some instances, it even came down to us pointing guns and shooting each other. And hopefully we have learned from the follies of those days. Hopefully we have learned that all of us have a struggle that is best won through the unification of all forces. A struggle when people of different faiths, different beliefs, different skin tones, different hair textures, different educational levels, different socioeconomic standards, we can all come together to struggle to be free. And that's what building permanent political organizations is all about. It's about struggle. We don't build them to say we have them, we build them to struggle. And once we build our individual organizations, we have to look around us and find some point on which we can unite with another organization. Because once we get rolling as a united force, there's nothing that can stop us. Within the New African Peoples Organization, we envision a republic free from crime, drugs, poverty, racism, and despair. We want to build a new society which will foster hope, progress, and peace for all its members and contribute to the betterment of human conditions everywhere and to building new and better world relationships. We'd like to invite you to join us in our pursuit of this new society. And if you find that for whatever reasons you can't join us, join someone in pursuit of a new society. Because the one we have, brothers and sisters, will only lead us further down the road of destruction. Thank you. Now I'm back as your moderator. And I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Minister Charles X of the Nation of Islam. He's also a member of the Jackson Human Rights Coalition, and let's bring him forth with a strong hand.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the one God to whom all praises are due, the Lord of the worlds. And in the name of all the prophets of God, I bear witness that there is but one God. I greet you in the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu Alaikum. It is an honor and privilege to be standing before you as a helper to Minister Louis Farrakhan. As I sit and listen to those on the panel, I think about how blessed we are as a people to see and witness this day. I just want to say a few words about the aim and purpose of the Nation of Islam and why we wanted to participate in African Liberation Day. We recognize that we have been a people who have been robbed of our language, of our culture, and our history. That's right. And therefore, we must engage in a process of re-education and retraining. Now, when we say that we are members of the Nation of Islam, we're not talking about an exclusive group of people that meet at a mosque or a temple or in some edifice. But we're talking about a nation of righteous people. We know and believe that black people have the nature of God within themselves. We understand that today we are a nation within a nation here in America. Would you agree? Oh, yeah. But for some reason, for many reasons, we have been divided as a people. But it's now time for us to come together and be one. This gathering is symbolic tonight. This is only a symbol that represents the kind of activity that we should be involved in on a daily basis. A real symposium is a symposium that we communicate on a daily basis, that we share what God has blessed us with each other on a daily basis. Would you agree? I just want you to understand what we're doing here tonight and know that it's only symbolic, but it's so meaningful because we are growing up, we are maturing now. And God is showing us what we must do to free ourselves. I thank Almighty God, Allah, for the day that I met Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that I can now stand here and speak to you, not representing myself, but representing Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam is an organization that is spiritual in base, in foundation, but an organization that is also political. Today we see Minister Farrakhan throughout America speaking on behalf of not just a small group of people, but speaking on behalf of black people, not just here in America, but black people all over the world. Showing us that God is working in our community today. He's just a personality acting on principles. Personalities come and personalities go. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it is not the personality that is great. It is the principle that is being upheld by that personality.
Oh, yeah.
But for some reason, we get so excited about a personality, don't we? And we don't focus on the principle that that personality is trying to show us in their life. So tonight we want you to focus in on the principle of African Liberation Day, a united front, representing a body of people. 90 years of struggle. Oh, how significant the numbers. The number 9 represents completion. When a woman conceives, she has to go through 9 months before the baby is born. Is that right? 9 representing God's creation, representing the 9 planets that we know that is in the universe. Is that correct? 9 representing the 9 systems of the body, working together to create a living soul. Oh, how significant the 9 is. The 0 represents us, because we are nothing without God. Would you agree? The 0 representing our humility that we should project. But some of us think that we are big stuff. Is that right? And we're like a balloon, and every time somebody shows some kind of praise to us, it's like air being blown into a balloon. And our head gets bigger and bigger every round. And pretty soon we just explode. But we must come to understand that all of us are very insignificant in the eyesight of God. Don't feel bad today because God has chosen you. It has been written and it is ordained that you be in the condition and position that you're in today. I am a Muslim, but before I was a Muslim, I was a Christian. Because I did not know myself, I did not know my language, I didn't even know where I came from. When people used to ask me, where you from? I told them I was from Jackson. So I had to be crazy. I want to recite something from the Bible. I know I have just a few minutes, but I just want to share something with you. It's hard to ask a preacher to teach for 10 minutes. But I don't consider myself a preacher, I consider myself a teacher. So a teacher can handle 10 minutes. In the book of Ephesians, the 6th chapter, it reads, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Now, some of us may interpret that differently, but I just want to give you my opinion of that scripture. Many of you came in this building tonight wrestling with yourself. Is that right? You had some deep secret buried down within yourself. And some of you are going to leave here wrestling with yourself. It is that struggle that we must overcome before we can liberate Africa. It is the struggle of those principalities. I'm talking about envy and jealousy. I'm talking about greed. I'm talking about backbiting. This is the real struggle that we got to deal with. Spiritual wickedness in high places. Oh, how high are they? What happened to us as a people? We have been reduced to the level of a beast. And so now we are wrestling with ourselves because we know that we have the nature of God within us. So, brothers and sisters, I want to leave you with this. When you see organizations and leadership of organization coming before you, showing you how to raise yourself out of the condition that you're in as a people, humble yourself. Become a zero. And if you become a zero, God just might make a new life out of you and give you a 9 that represents his creation, represents new life coming out of the womb of the woman. I wish I had more time, but you got to come tomorrow. I believe they're going to give us more time tomorrow. Is that right? This is just part 1. So stay tuned. You ain't heard nothing yet. Assalamu alaikum.
Let's give all of our panelists another hand. It was really a struggle for all of us to stay within the allotted time that they gave us. And I really appreciate the discipline that we all exhibited in terms of staying within it. Okay, we have another 10 minutes that's been allotted for questions and answers from the audience. So if you have a question, make it brief. If you have a statement, please make it brief so that we can get to as many people as possible. Brother in the back.
Okay. Okay, scientific socialism is both a system and a process in terms of transforming people. The key thing about scientific socialism is to view it as a process of transforming men and women. Like the brother earlier was saying, that this system has really created a situation, capitalism, where we really dog each other out. And what we mean by socialism is a system where we're in control of our lives, we're in control of our resources, and we're involved in a whole process of changing how we relate to each other and changing how we think about each other. It's this whole process. There's a lot of confusion out here in the media about it. They're saying, oh, socialism is dead, communism is dead because of some changes going on in Europe. But we know, in terms of looking at the principles of it, looking at the principles not just as those written by Marx and Lenin, but those written by great Africans like Nkrumah and Lumumba and Touré, you know, that have laid out and have struggled to practice it. That it's about controlling our resources for the interests of humanity, not just about making some money. It's about controlling and directing our resources for the interests of humanity and transforming men and women. That's it in a nutshell. To get more about that, there's information on the table about our party, and this is something that we study extensively. One of the things we study in our work study circles. Okay, Pan-Africanism has the three key elements: the liberation of Africa, the unification of Africa, and its development under scientific socialism. There's also more details in a brochure we have on Pan-Africanism over here, and also some details in a couple of the more in-depth pieces of literature we have here. Okay, what I can do is elaborate a little on those three components. When we say the liberation of Africa, we are not only speaking of the liberation from colonialism, which we see the last remnants today in South Africa, Tanzania, but also the liberation from neo-colonialism. What currently exists in most of Africa today is we had these puffing backwards thinking people, Uncle Toms, that are stealing the money and working with the CIA and working with the capitalists here, you know, and just ripping off the people, blind. You have Mobutu sitting over here in the middle of Africa, claiming to be the third richest person in the world, and you got Africans in Zaire, which is one of the richest countries in the world, starving. You know, so I mean, when we say liberation, we want to end to that. It's not just a matter of running the Europeans out of Tanzania and South Africa. We want to do that, but it's not just that. And then secondly, it's about unification. We see that it was the Berlin Conference in 1884-85 that split up Africa artificially, where there are more states in Africa than any other continent in the world. Yet Africa is contiguous. You know, we don't have this bit of land. It's not like England is a little island out in the middle of the ocean, and Ireland is a little island, you know, out here. Africa is contiguous, and we see this unification as being key in terms of that. So it's those three elements: liberation, unification, and development under scientific socialism.
Brother, I see your hand, but in the interest of fairness, I'd like to first see if there are any other questions coming from anywhere else within the audience for any of the panelists. Okay, young man.
Hotel, Baragana. Eugene will be the response. This is Baragana.
And Jim.
I like to say that I really enjoyed everybody's presentation. 10 minutes is really tight, as you said. Great. I guess what I want to say is a brief statement. I would like to encourage everybody, because be we socialist, capitalist, or whatever, until we develop a means of economic aid for us as a people, it's really tough to master plan how we can overcome that which is already in construction. The Nation of Islam and Africanism, I think it's beautiful. We can set up an example, a model of the sort, a think tank, as this is, where the people come together and we can just employ, say, each one of these four groups employ one person that sits down and develops an economic system for Jackson that becomes a model for Africa, a model for the rest of the country to look at. Because I'm sure that there are brothers in Chicago who are without jobs, and if they knew that in Jackson, Mississippi, like in Atlanta now, they say Atlanta is a black Mecca. I live in Atlanta, it's not a black Mecca. I think that if something were to happen where that Jackson, Mississippi, because of the groups that are here came together and formed a coalition and started forming these jobs for people to come back, people would move back to Jackson, Mississippi. People would come home again because they have something to come to. So I guess the only thing I'm saying is that I didn't hear it, which means it's not there because 10 minutes is not enough time to elaborate. But an economic presentation, what can we do to help us in this country so that we can afford to send money to Africa and other places to develop them as well? Because right now, is one of the services giving them the AIDS. If all the AIDS coming from rural America, London, then they're going to continue to have to stick with the rice that's coming in right now. So I'm saying let's do something about that situation, along with the other things we're trying to do. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for your comment, and that is very key, developing the economics. I mean, you know, you have to have funds to even wage a revolution, and that is something that I'm sure none of the organizations sitting here have overlooked, but it's just something that really was not a part other than the concept of socialism of this forum, this symposium. Brother Amafika.
I want to address this question. I also want to ask a question on the question of how can we have the southern system in the United States in terms of economic systems is already enacted with socialism in terms of having the people around the world. The key is socialism. It's not the economic system in the world. Capitalism, socialism, these communism.
How can we implement socialism tomorrow?
Tomorrow, no, it's a process, bro.
Right, I know. So I'm saying if there is a process to implement socialism, then while we do the process, it really wasn't a question, but I appreciate the answer. I was really making a statement about that it's not just today on a broader scale. They give them some answers that will bring forth socialism by saying a model.
So,
The model would be that there
Excuse me, brothers. I mean, in the interest of moving forward, I don't want you two to get into a back and forth. So, can you go ahead and?
okay, the question is what's the importance of all organizations getting together, forming a common united front?
Did you have? Brother Quinn. Sure. And we'll take one more question after this one in the interest of time.
Assalamu alaikum. To answer that, the importance of all the organizations coming together is representative of a wall. We recognize that the history of struggle here in America and throughout the world has shown us how the enemy of all Africans have been to divide us and to pit one against each other. So when they see unity among us, they cannot destroy the destiny that we are bound to achieve. It's obvious that it's going to be a struggle to uproot a slave mentality that we have as a people. But the greater the desire, you will have a great response. So I think that what we are seeing across in Africa and here in America is a desire that is growing daily. And that desire is feeding the will of the people. And as you see our people rising up, it's going to appear like we all woke up at one time. And I pray to Almighty God that we be prepared for that, because it's going to be something that we really won't believe, but that is going to be very, very soon.
I want to add 2 quick points on that I see about an African United Front. One, it serves to protect us. You know, it serves to protect us in that one of the things that we see in some of the things that happened with the Panthers in the 60s, what happened in terms of the conflict between Garvey and Du Bois, is the enemy came in and they divided things up. If we have an African United Front, we take those differences, you know, and we resolve them amongst ourselves. So it serves to protect us. And the second quick point is, it creates the groundwork for mass struggle. We come here today, we have representatives from 4 different organizations, and we appeal to the audience, if you're on an organization, join an organization. And this is something that helps us to set the climate for mass struggle, because it's involving, it's requesting all of you to be involved with the struggle that we're all involved with.
Okay, I'm going to take our, Brother Ali, did you want to make a brief comment? You sure? Okay, we're going to take our last question from Brother Hollis Watkins.
I just basically wanted to make a statement, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to see all of us addressing the issue that is so important. All of us seem to be saying basically the same thing, that is that, however, what term we use, we really need to be about doing some things for self. And that's what the whole concept of socialism is all about. Part of the problem is really what self is. We have to give this education because for too long we've been trying to help and enhance those other things. And I think we, as some of the brothers mentioned, that we all need to see ourselves as being children of God, especially when we look at this problem that we face here, and see African Liberation Day being something more than a gesture, because we were taught one day with God was as if 1,000 years. And we look at African Liberation Day as 1 or 2 days that we come and gather in spiritual speeches and talk about that. And we have the wrong understanding. African Liberation Day should be 1 day, which is every day, that we as Africans work to make sure that all of our organizations, be we call them political or not, definitely become permanent organizations, because if you are not permanent, then you cannot survive the long haul.
That's right.
As black people are about longevity, that's what we have to be about in our efforts, in our struggle. And how can we, as we say, free the land if we don't have the patience, the energy to survive the long haul? How can we do the things that will change over time? That's why none of us can stand up to and deal with Almighty God, is because He was here before any of us came and will be here after all of us are gone.
That's right.
And we're His children, and we have to see ourselves in that same light, putting forth the same energy and effort in that same vein. We will be successful.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I just felt it necessary to say, to put one thing on our mind, and that is, we're talking about Pan-Africanism and a unified front, and if you're going to have a goal, you have to project something a long ways out. And we have to, if we're talking about living as one people, then we have to come to terms and agree upon how we're going to live together. And in doing that, that means we got to have a basis for our community life. I mean, it's one thing to determine how the land is going to be split